Calling from a 919 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 919.
Hey, it's Joe from Raleigh.
Hello, Joe from Raleigh.
Hello?
Joe from Raleigh.
Yes, Joe Strummer. Joe Strummer.
Joe Strummer.
You had a really good discussion yesterday about IHS, and I had worked there for about 7 years in the early 2000s. And I thought you had a really nice discussion about their funding. I will tell you that they are essentially a wholly owned subsidiary of the Koch Foundation of Charles Koch. All those funders on there are essentially Charles Koch's money. And when you listed the names of the board members, there are 5 or 6 of them that are actually Koch affiliated. So it's not as if Charles Koch just sits on that board and decides what's going to happen. He has 4 or 5 other folks that sit there: Brian Hooks, Ryan Stowers, and all those folks. So I thought you did a really nice job of discussing them and their funding source.
Okay, wait. Now, just tell people about the organization. What you know. You used to work there.
Oh, okay. Sure. So the Institute for Humane Studies, it advertises itself as hosting these free summer seminars where you can come and quote unquote explore the ideas of liberty.
And just to be clear,
it's affiliated with your.
Give me 1 second. Just to be clear. Sure. This came up in the context of a video that was put out by an IHS project, Learn Liberty, that is funding Dave Rubin's YouTube channel. So just so that
correct,
people
and I
have
used
the
to run
context.
those programs.
And so, how much money do you think he gets?
Programs.
Like, what are the parameters? How much money do you think a guy like that gets?
Well, there's 2 things. One is Coke is awfully cheap. The joke about Coke is that they would try to buy people on the cheap. So I don't know, tens of thousands, $100,000, something like that. I never personally
was that cheap?
Dealt with Dave Rubin.
Because I got a deal for the Coke brothers.
Yeah, imagine Dave Rubin Dave Rubin doing like if you don't give me a little bit more, I might develop a conscience.
That's right.
I might actually ask a follow-up question.
I think we've seen how easily my politics change. So, all right, but go ahead.
If the Venezuelans went to him next week, he'd be like,
right, exactly.
They're doing great there.
Heating oil is really important.
Well, you're a lot cheaper, Sam.
Well,
you're
yes.
a lot cheaper.
No,
I only spend like $10 a month now.
There you go. Boom.
I'm somewhere in between.
All right. So you worked at the IHS, and just tell us like what the plans were and what the program is, and how steeped in politically motivated money it is.
It's all politically motivated. So all of the money comes from the right wing. Sarah Scaife Foundation. Those are the folks that funded. The same Richard Mellon Scaife is the same guy who funded the Clinton, Whitewater stuff and the exposés behind that in the 1990s. And I will say as an aside, I am trying to make up for all the wrong I did from about 1995 to 2004. So that's why I'm supporting you now.
So I appreciate that. Now, so what changed? I mean, were you ideologically there, or were you just like?
I am anti-war. I'm anti-war. I would characterize myself as I would be more or less on the left, democratic socialist. Listening to you for the last 5 years has been really important, but I've always been anti-war. And when the war came along in 2001, I took seriously. I was a young person who, was swayed by the ideas, libertarian ideas. The idea that peace was an important component of that, and so much of that took a back seat to tax after 2001. So many of the people that proclaimed themselves libertarians could not be found when it came to standing up against the Bush administration. And I actually marched in Washington D.C. against with the left against the Gulf War. Against 2001, 2002, 2003,
the second Gulf War. I was there in those marches in Washington.
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah,
right. And so that was my big thing. And then in addition to that, I'm now a criminal defense attorney, and their commitment to they have this the right wing has this program now where they are claiming to be against mass incarceration. But it's only a fig leaf for what they really care about, which are tax cuts. That's basically what they care about, is tax cuts and quote unquote free market economics. And everything else becomes a fig leaf for that. So, for instance, I'll just give you as an aside, one of their big, pushes right now for against mass incarceration is what they call mens rea reform. Mens rea reform has to do with the type of mind you need, or the type of responsibility the government has to prove in order to convict you of a criminal crime.
Right, intent essentially, offense. Right? Or just,
intent, right? Yeah. It's intent. It has to deal with intent. And all mens rea reform amounts to is corporate crimes. They don't really care. These folks on the right do not really care at root about the drug war. That is a fig leaf for them to claim that they are sympathetic to left-wing concerns, when in fact they aren't genuinely sympathetic to that at all, because look at how much money they devote to that. They devote all of their money to supporting, or the vast majority of their money to supporting re-electing Republicans from, Tom Cotton.
Right.
Mike Pompeo. These folks. So for them to then turn around, anyway, that disillusioned me, and so I don't need to go into my full intellectual history because I'm different than a lot of folks, or like to think of myself that way. But in any case, IHS I spent 7 years there with the director of educational programs, and it's all uniformly, it's all right wing. It's all right wing. Now, libertarians, as you have debated them, like to think of themselves as above and beyond partisan politics. They like to think of themselves as, we just care about ideas.
Right.
But whenever you press them about where do they come down when the rubber hits the road, it's always Republicans. It's always the right wing.
Well, to be fair, the rubber doesn't have to hit the road if we all drove hovercrafts. So
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. So when you interview these, I know Michael gets, and I love Michael's show as well. I'm a supporter of that, but I know Michael gets a little bit, why are we debating these libertarians? I think you do an important service when you debate the libertarians and show how nonsensical it is, because there are a lot of white males on the right or who are susceptible to these ideas because they sound persuasive at their surface. And it's important for you to sort of cut away at how weak the intellectual justification
the libertarians seem to be
are.
The libertarians right now seem to be a little bit dormant, right? That's why Dave Rubin's out there calling himself a classical liberal. Like, he's not right. That would be like saying I'm more of like a Roman. It doesn't mean anything, right? Dude, you're a libertarian.
Well, James,
own it, and then we can have a debate. But this pretending that he's a class, like he's some other thing. This is the same thing that we experienced during the aughts, right? Nobody was a conservative anymore. I'm a paleo. I'm a neo. Dude, you couldn't find a conservative after 2005 because nobody wanted to be associated with it. And then it came back. They're constantly renaming what they're doing, rebranding it. We're not the moral majority anymore. We're the Tea Party. We're not it's just, this is what they do. And it's the same exact ideas at the end of the day. It's a certain amount of bigotry, a certain amount of tax cuts, and that's basically it. But listen, I appreciate the call, and I really am very glad that you have your stripes have changed, because the call was so clear. It was crystal clear, your phone. I appreciate it.
I think the libertarian. I miss the libertarian debates. I miss them.
Well, I'm just waiting for they'll come back. They'll come back at one point, like when it's when
the alt-right is at a low point, perhaps, and they change back into libertarians.
Right. There's something. Yeah. There'll be some event that will.
If Trump ever loses, then they'll be like, you know what? The racism stuff was not the point. The point was restraining the federal budget.